90. For the first time, we are interviewing two people, two very special people who represent citizenship, community, family, and church to the highest level. They've been married for over 73 years. Harry and Ruby Bryant are our special guests today. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
We're a little outside our normal environment because we're not at the studio, but we are looking forward to this interview with two very special people. Harry was born on March 15th, 1921 in Gaston County, North Carolina, in Gastonia. Ruby is from Gaffney, South Carolina, and was born...
I'm not from Gaffney.
Oh, you're not? Where were you born?
Welford, South Carolina.
Oh, all right. My fault. Stand corrected, but she was born on October 2nd, 1922. Is that right?
Correct.
Together they've raised 4 children: Harry, Tom, Richard, and Suzanne.
Suzanne in Denver.
Okay, Suzanne is, she may want to be the youngest one, but we'll make it. Okay.
It's Tom, Dick, and Harry and Suzanne, but Suzanne's in the third.
All right. They're, I think, the proud grandparents of 7 and great-grandparents of 5. Did I get that right?
Right.
Very good. They've made too many contributions to the greater good here in Gastonia and Gaston County and North Carolina as well. And if I were to try to mention those, we would consume half our interview time, so I'm going to skip that and cut straight to the chase and ask them about their earliest life, what they remember about their early lives growing up in upstate South Carolina and in Gaston County. Why don't we start with you, Mr. Bryant? Tell me what it was like. What do you remember early about Gastonia in the early 20s and the 30s?
I remember being born, not today, but being born on 505 East 3rd Avenue, approximately 5 blocks from where my father worked. And at the earliest age I can remember, when I was 2 or 3 years old, I'd wake up after lunch, and my older brother had gone to work for my daddy, and I'd get up when I found out, and I'd take off running to where to work, because I always wanted to be around something going on, and that's at an early age, and still working.
I know you are. That's quite a legacy. Do you think that your dad mind having you around the shop, because that was probably a pretty dangerous place, wasn't it?
Well, yes and no, but I was looked after I get there by the employees there, and I irritated them so much they we were building an office there one day, and they took a 20-penny nail and nailed me up to one of them 2x4s.
Oh, did they?
Keep me from irritating them.
I assume you got the message.
Yeah, I got the message. Yeah.
Now, Ruby, you were in South Carolina. Where were you born? Was it in the country or was it in the city?
I was born in at Tuckapaw, South Carolina. It's not on the map anymore.
It's not. What happened to it?
It was bought out. It was a mill.
Oh, so it was a mill village?
It's a mill village, yeah. And my grandfather was head of one of the departments. And we lived at Welford, really, South Carolina. Mr. Alfred Moore owned that mill, and that's who my daddy worked for.
Okay. So when the mill closed down, the village just kind of closed up and went?
No, it's still.
Oh, the mill's still there?
Yeah, mill's still there. But we lived at Welford. The mill was in Jackson.
Oh, I see.
South Carolina.
Now, Mr. Bryant, you said your dad was in the I think, motor repair business. Is that correct?
Well, that's partially correct. My daddy is self-educated. He was born and raised in Iredell County, but at an early age, he dropped out of school, 8th grade, and walked all the way to Charlotte, North Carolina, from Iredell County, and went to work for the old Carolina Power Company which is now Duke Power Company. As I said before, he's self-educated and he learned a lot on his own. And
Well, I have to ask you this because I heard that there was some, and this may be an urban myth or it may be true, that your dad had some connection with Thomas Edison or his company, or tell me, can you tell us about that?
well, Daddy, during World War I, Daddy left his work in Charlotte and went to Hopewell, Virginia, and went to work at the shell loading plant for DuPont Powder Works. And there he met Edison, and Edison named him, started calling him at an early age Mr. Charlie. And that went through his whole lifestyle, people calling him Mr. Charlie. Of course, when he got in the state legislature, he was more important then, so they dropped off to Mr. Charlie.
Oh, and
They called him Mr. Bryant.
Oh, I see. Well, I guess so. That's understandable. So you worked at an early age at your dad's business. I assume you didn't have to work at the early age, Miss Bryant.
No, I went to college.
You did.
Yeah.
You went, and that's where I got Gaffney, I guess, earlier, because you went to Limestone, and you attended Limestone College. But you'd never been to Gastonia, had you? At that point?
Yeah.
Oh, you
we
had.
lived in high shows
Oh, you did.
when I was in college.
Oh, okay. So you were in Gaston County, but you did not know Mr. Bryant, obviously, in high school, did you?
No.
Mr. Bryant, where'd you go to high school?
Old Gastonia High School, which now actually arms a residential building. It was originally just Gastonia High School back then, and of course it's combined with Ashbrook and Holbrook and Lowell. They consolidated and then to Ashbrook, and that's built right across the street where I was raised.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. What do you remember about Gastonia? I know you said you had I guess it sounds like you had the free run of what's now called the Yorkchester community. What was Gastonia like back in the late 20s? Was the Depression hard on Gaston County? Do you have any memory of that?
Yeah, it was real hard. My daddy just started his own business on February the 1st, 1930, right at the heart of beginning of the Depression. The company he worked for went bankrupt because of the union. The name of the company was Michael and Bivens, and they took a job in New Orleans, Louisiana, of wiring the old or current Lake Pontchartrain Bridge, and they would never join the union. And so the night before they was to open the bridge, the union went in there and cut their cables from one end to the other, and it bankrupted the company. And that was the beginning of my father getting started
His own business.
Because he ran the motor shop and sales and maintenance of the motors, and of course it was a machine shop too.
Was it all sorts of electric motors?
Yeah, all kinds, and you name it, he could do it. Back then, the largest motors were probably 125 or 150 horsepower. They would drive, be hung on the ceiling and drive spinning wheels or spinning
Right, textile manufacturers
right,
use them.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this: you went. Everyone, at least in Gaston County, North Carolina, knows that both of y'all are big University of North Carolina supporters.
Right.
And I believe you attended UNC, and have of course maintained a strong relationship with that university for many years. But you came back and worked for your dad. Was working for your dad more fun than going to college?
When I left college the second year, I was suffering with a problem that they couldn't diagnose what caused it, but it's hard to explain. But my joints would give me a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
My knee here would hurt, my shoulder would hurt. It'd go away, and it just all of my joints. They couldn't decide what was causing it, but I realized today that it was just growing pains.
Oh, was it?
But anyway, I
He
left.
was small.
Oh, he was?
Oh.
All right.
They called me Pee Wee.
Oh, did they?
And some of them, they all gone now. They call me Pee Wee until they've all passed away. See,
Everybody called him Pee Wee.
Well, you didn't call him Pee Wee, did you? No, I didn't think so. Now, it worked out pretty well, Mr. Bryant, because you came back to work for your dad, and your dad had hired a secretary, who happens to be sitting next to you right here. Tell us what you remember about that when you first met Ruby.
He didn't like me.
Well, I'm going to ask you in a minute what you thought of him, but let's find out what he thought of you.
Well, I didn't like that. He hired her and didn't give me any.
Say so.
I mean, he hired her. I didn't have any say so at all.
Uh-huh.
But you work together a long time and you get to want to know one another, and
You must have thought it was a good decision at some point.
yeah, it had.
It worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
73 years well.
Right, 4 good children.
Absolutely.
We got 4 children that we never had any trouble with, and not many families can say that.
True. I'm sure they're very proud of you. Ruby, what do you remember about seeing him? Did you think he was?
raising 4 children.
Well, let's talk about how you meeting him back in the 30s before the war. What did you think of him? Did he seem like a?
I fell in love with him.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, how did that? What did that feel like?
I'm an only child,
Mm-hmm.
so when I catch somebody,
You don't let go of
I don't let go. No.
Don't ever marry an only child, son.
Well, I got news for you. 2 of my children have done that already, so we'll see what happens. But so you met in the office. You courted, I guess is what they called it back then. And was he a good date? Did he spend a lot of money on you, or was he kind of
No,
tightwad? He wasn't.
He didn't have it.
He didn't have any money.
Didn't make much money back then.
But what was your first job? What did you make?
3 cents an hour.
3 cents an hour,
Mm-hmm.
and that was working for your dad, I guess.
Yeah. And the highest paid employee was 25 cents an hour back then.
Wow. Well, I guess 3 cents was 3 cents. It went a lot further than it does now.
I made more than that.
You did? Okay. So you made.
See, this was going up before Daddy started in business when everything went south.
Right.
And the banks failed in 33.
Right.
3 years after he started in business, that he didn't have a 50 cents in his pocket. And the Stows and Linebergers in Belmont owned a bank in North Carolina that didn't close.
Did you do business with him?
Yeah, we did a lot of their work, electrical work, and Daddy went down there and borrowed it. The only bank in North Carolina didn't close. Daddy went down there and borrowed his payroll. Never missed a payroll in the whole history of the company.
Wow, that's saying something.
Yeah, in the heart of the Depression, yes.
Now, I keep guiding you back. You met. How long did you go out before you decided to get married?
Well, I worked there all the time.
You did?
Yeah, night and day.
Oh, you did? But you got married before he went in the Air Force. Is that
Oh,
correct?
yeah.
We got married and thought I had a 6 months deferment. 2 weeks after the marriage, I was in the service.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. Daddy called me. I told him we was going to go on our honeymoon. We've got to go to New Orleans. The president of the impersonator for textiles.
Mr. Mackey.
Got us some gas tickets to drive.
Oh, because gas was rationed.
Yeah, and
I went up and got, he let me have the tickets.
Oh, he did. Oh, good. That was smart.
He told them to stay parked where it's not really seen very much, because we had a ruby red Chevrolet coupe.
Oh, it was pretty.
Prettiest thing ever hit Gastonia at that time. I mean, I'm telling you live.
No, I
I'm telling
believe you.
the
I'm
truth.
listening.
But it was bought out of the Holtons originally from Iredell County, and friends of my father. He came to Belmont and opened up a Chevrolet store down there, and he drove that car up to the company on a Saturday in sunshine, and he parked it on the other side of the street. He came up. I saw it before he came over, but I didn't know what it was for. He said, "How you like that over there?" I said, "Mr. Colton, the show is pretty." He says, "Well, how much would you give me for it?" And I told him $1,000. I did. So,
That was all it took.
now,
It was pretty.
the reason I said $1,000 because I saw one, a four-door one up at Smith Chevrolet. Mr. Smith wouldn't give me a discount on it. It was $1,200 and some. It was a four-door,
Well,
but
he was probably happy to have you driving around in that car as an advertisement.
Oh, sure.
it was.
Well, let me ask you this: you shipped out of and you went to England.
Well, now that was after. See, I was in the service. 10 months before I shipped out. I went in January. The last. Let's see. Last week in January, and went to basic training. I went out to Greeley, Colorado, to go to school for 2.5 months. Then from there, our class was fit manual bookkeeping primarily. How I got there, I don't know, but anyway. I was one of 20 in this class. I was there for 2.5 weeks, or 2.5 months. And they broke us up back then because we had to be sanctioned out to various bomb squadrons or fighter squadrons to maintain records on all the aircraft.
When you were in England, you were stationed there at a base to maintain the maintenance records. So you were, I guess, witness to the build up to Normandy, to the Normandy invasion.
Right.
Did you know that was going to happen?
Yeah, it was postponed 2 days because of the weather.
What do you remember about that? Was it I guess it was an awesome sight to see all those airplanes and boats and.
You know, it's funny that you had asked me that. I just told somebody the other day, the most beautiful sight I ever saw in my life was all the contrails in the air the day of the invasion.
You knew something was.
I already knew what was happening. I just went out there. I didn't realize we had that many airplanes over there, but it was.
What did you do while he was overseas?
I worked.
You did? Did you save anything?
Man,
You did? You had no children
I
yet,
was
so
Mr.
you.
Bryant, well, I was Mr. Bryant's secretary. was promoted.
Oh, you were? What was that like working for your husband's father?
Oh, we got along
Oh, you did?
fine. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
I was very fond of him.
You were?
I went through, when he was in Raleigh, I did a lot of his work.
He was in the legislature for 4 years or 2 years?
6 years.
6 years? And so you kind of
Yeah.
took care of a lot of the business that he was not attending to.
Yeah, he told me what to do.
I'm sure you spoke to him every day. Now, you mentioned, Mr. Bryant, you came back after the war, and you began working at the company, and of course, the company did well. And I know it's through a lot of hard work, but it was a successful business, really known all over maybe the United States, but certainly the Southeast. The work that Bryant Supply did, and I know you and your family was a big part of. You were a big part of the success of that company.
But when we were in the maintenance repair, we had two companies. Bryant Repair Company did the maintenance repair and installation of electrical equipment. And the Bryant Supply Company, there used to be one company, but I'll finish that in a minute. But because it seemed like a conflict of interest, we had to split the two companies up because we were selling stuff and competitors and the electrical maintenance repair complained about us having dual
Repair and sell.
right, and so that's when we split up the companies. But they didn't straighten that out for us from the competitors. They still didn't think it was a good operation.
Well,
So we eventually sold a motor shop to our employees.
and then you operated the sales side of it. Well, you know, everybody that I've talked to about you and Ruby, but particularly you, talk about your salesmanship and your ability to get along with people. And do you agree with that? Do you think you're a good salesman?
You know what?
He was.
I never ever sold one piece of material in my life. I waited on people, but I didn't go out and make a sale. We hired good people to do the job, and we backed them up.
And that was the key to your sales success. What before we came in here, Ruby handed me a book. Of course, we know you've been involved. Both of y'all have been active in the Community Foundation, active in the ARP Church, active in just so many of the good works that are done in the community and even in the state, of course. And one of the things that said in the article about you was that you said that you lived a charmed life. And I wanted you to tell me what that means to you. What does it mean to live a charmed life? Why do you think you lived a charmed life?
Well, my father went to business the first day of February 1930, and I've had a job ever since.
It's a pretty good record. And still working.
Good. I'd have to say that's charmed.
I would have to say that.
And I'll say this about our family. We've made a lot of friends in our lifetime. And it's just being nice to people, giving them a good hard handshake, and doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's always been my motto.
That sounds like the kind of advice you'd give your children and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren if they could hear you.
Right.
How about you, Ms. Bryant? Do you agree with
I
that?
tell them like it is.
You do? Are you known for being a straight talker?
I'm a straight talker.
You don't mind if they don't want to hear it, right?
Right. And Suzanne is just a Ruby.
Oh, your daughter walks in your footsteps then.
And she has no children.
Well, I want to tell you this. It's been a great pleasure having you here. I know there's so many more stories that we could tell. I know there's a lot of memories that we could share, but I want to thank you for making the effort to come down here. I know it was something that you weren't sure about.
Oh, I wouldn't.
But I hope it has not been too unpleasant. We will thank you for being here. We will make sure this interview gets posted. I'll let you know when it's ready to review, and you can tell your family. And I'm sure I'll see you both around town, but we look forward to seeing you on the internet during the time that the interview is posted. And thank you very much for your time this afternoon. It's been a great pleasure.
Let me tell you one little story.
All right.
In high school, my friendly giving started really in grammar school, but in high school, the other of my friends had a job. And I had a job. I'd leave school and go, somebody come pick me up, take me back to work. But in last couple of years of high school, I didn't work as much at the company as I did in school. I was as sales manager for the annual, but my bosom buddies, they didn't have jobs. We'd walk from high school up to Old Sweetlands. I don't know whether you.
Oh yeah.
And I'd buy them a Coke, buy a pack of crackers, and that's really where my main giving came about, is doing something for others. Couldn't do for themselves because they didn't have jobs.
That's where it started.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's still going on today, and a lot of people in this community are the better for it. And I hope that I know your family is greatly appreciative of all that you have done. And I think the people of Gastonia are as well. And we're just so glad that you were part of Gaston County, North Carolina, and that you're here. I know we didn't get to talk about Coach Smith and all your relationships with the people at UNC. Maybe we can do that another time in another place. But
Just talked to Roy Williams.
oh, you did? What did Roy tell you?
He's gonna have surgery
Oh, is he?
on his knee.
Both of them.
Oh, is he?
And Harry was talking to him, and he asked to speak to me. He's my buddy.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I tell you who another one was, Dean Smith.
I know you and Coach Smith were real close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we miss him very much.
Did I tell you a story about Dean and Ruby?
No, you can tell me that. We'll squeeze that in.
We had a good friendly couple here some time ago. His wife, unfortunately, has died at an early age, but she liked Dean Smith too, but she and Ruby spent a lot of time together, but her husband didn't like Dean. Well, you know how they used to have these tournaments in Charlotte, ACC, before they just got so damn big.
Yes.
And in the first Coliseum they built in Charlotte, we had boxes. When the ACC tournaments came, we'd have to give those boxes up for the teams, for the schools. But we got seats down on the front row, right behind the coaches' tables. I mean, yeah. And this couple, that the wife is just like us, but he didn't like Carolina. But Dean, at one of the games, we were sitting down on the front row, and Dean walked in behind the team and everything. He looked over Hey, Ruby. It changed this fella's mind.
He said, you mean he called you? And here was that whole Coliseum.
That won him over. That won him over.
Yeah.
It should.
Yeah.
I think if you met Coach Smith, you would like him no matter who you were, whether you were a State fan or a Duke fan. He was that kind of person. So
Oh, he really was.
special individual.
And he was a Christian man too.
Yes, oh yeah. Well, thank you all for being here. I appreciate it so much.